Okay, welcome to the newest edition of the All Things Richmond podcast. I'm sitting here with your favorite realtors, Atlas Realty. We've got Darren Brown, affectionately known as Debo, and we've got Sean Stillwell, affectionately known as Sean Stillwell.
There we go.
So these two guys make up Atlas Realty, a powerful, dynamic duo here, kind of like Batman and Robin. I'm not sure which is which in the Richmond residential real estate scene. So I'm
definitely Robin.
I
don't know.
It.
Wow.
Sean's taller.
It's a lot of responsibility being Batman.
Yeah.
It
Are you
is.
okay
Yeah.
with that?
It is.
Heavy as the
I'm
crown.
always a sidekick. Yeah.
I wasn't even playing. That went better than I thought. So, okay, so let's talk about both of you, how you got to Richmond. What brought you here originally? Sean, you want to go first?
So I came to Richmond for love in 2005.
Love.
And Mindie Ballard and I are still together. We've been together for 15 years. Still not married because, like to keep it interesting.
Right.
But yeah, I came here in 2005 and I mean, I loved it. I was living outside of DC and it was super, super expensive and there was no soul. And I would come down here every week. I'd end up going to shows. That's how I ended up getting introduced to Darren. And it just seemed like a natural fit and I never looked back.
So 14 years here. I'm
Yep.
sure you've seen it change a lot.
A lot.
Darren, you've been here your whole life?
I'm 37 years in. Yeah.
37 years in. And where'd you go to high school?
I went to Freeman.
Freeman High.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you've seen it for 37 years. You've seen it for 14.
Mhm.
It's changed quite a bit in both of your tenures here.
Yeah.
We want to get into the real estate side of that. But before that, let's talk about your career before real estate. What did you guys do before you entered the real estate market?
So when I moved to Richmond, I didn't have a job for a couple months. I'd saved up enough money working at a car wash. I was really good at what I did. Yeah. And Darren Brown actually got me in at a Verizon reseller. And this is before the iPhone. This is when like flip phone cameras had just come out.
Or slinging flip phones.
We're slinging
no
flip
color
phones.
screens.
I mean, it was
like the
it
Game
took-
Boy screen.
it took
Yeah.
true
Playing
salesmanship.
It was
Yeah.
years
Yeah.
before the iPhone or the Razor even
You're
came out.
convincing
Yeah.
somebody why they need a phone in their pocket
In the first place.
Right.
And I'll let you finish.
100% commission,
Yeah.
and I'd never had a job with an hourly wage. I'd always sort
Right.
of made commission or
Right.
whatever, or tips or whatever. And so it seemed like a good fit, and it was 100% commission. I loved that. You could make
Yeah.
$0 in a week, or you could, make
a
all
lot.
your bills in a week. It was crazy.
Yeah. So that right there had to make the transition to real estate
Oh, it's
little
easy.
easier than most.
Yeah, totally easy.
Folks leaving a salary job have a
No benefits,
mortgage.
nothing.
Yeah.
Never had any of that.
Right.
Yeah. So what made you guys had to make the leap into real estate?
I'll let Darren take that one.
Yeah. You were selling phones at like in 03 and 04, maybe a little bit before that. And both of us left to go do other things. Sean went to go do development and flip houses. And then I left to go do financial planning. And I didn't really like what I was doing. So I started working for a flipper and just lowest guy on the totem pole, swinging hammers. And Sean pulled me back over to his side, and he said, like, we're doing the wrong thing. We should be on this side of the transaction.
Right.
And so he decided he would get his realtor's license and then said, let me give this a shot for a year.
Right.
And if it's good, I'll bring you on.
Right. And what year was that, Sean?
That was so I linked up with you actually at that time. So that was in like March of 2013.
13, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So 6 years ago, and then you came about a year later.
Yep.
And then you guys, along with Mindie at the time, formed Atlas Realty.
You got it.
Correct.
And so why don't you tell folks what Atlas Realty is? What you guys focus on?
Atlas is, I guess we're a boutique real estate company. I would say that we focus on clients and we focus on a concentrated area rather than just being broad and sort of open to everything. I think that we really wanted to have a small team that would be able to provide what we felt like our peers were missing when they were buying and selling houses. And so we had feedback from experiences from people. It was almost becoming realtors, like in spite of other realtors. And I don't mean that like, but Sean said we're going to be realtors in spite of realtors, and that's kind of the way that it always went.
So since you guys got started, I feel like the public has really dug your sense of style is probably the best way to put it, but combination of your logo, graphics, social media, Instagram ability. You guys do that very, very well. Who's the wizard behind the curtain between you two and Mindie? Like, how did that come to be?
So the Atlas branding was actually a friend of mine, Jason Lefton at Big Secret. He's a good guy. He used to do branding, and he came out of retirement to do the Atlas branding. And he does lasers and he does all kinds of crazy engraving in Jackson Ward. And I basically handed him a couple kind of ideas that I had, like general ideas. I wanted to be clean and timeless, and I didn't want it to look like we were pinning ourselves into 2013. To be frank, I handed him the Stella's menu and the Continental, and I was like, if
Really?
you just kind of make it look like this is kind of timeless. And so we sort of like wanted that as kind of like the emotional pull that I feel and how kind of timeless those kind of restaurant menus feel. I was like, I just kind of want the branding to feel like that. And he knew exactly what I was talking about, and we kind of took it from there. But then from there we built an Instagram. I knew that the future wasn't, obviously the future wasn't in like the traditional, Times Dispatch. It wasn't in, the phone book, but, it was on Instagram, on Facebook. And I figured if you can give people content, they'll follow you, and it can't really be houses. It can't always be just houses for sale, because that kind of has a shelf life. People will stop following you after they buy a house or whatever.
Sean's giving up our secrets right now.
Yeah.
Can we cut that?
Yeah. Yeah. So So in addition to the Instagram and like the how you guys sizzle yourselves and your properties, I think what makes you guys special too is the fact that you have been flippers, you have worked with the developers, you've been on the side where you're buying a house, you're renovating it, you're selling it, so you know the pain there, and you know on the back end what works and what doesn't, right? What makes a successful project and what doesn't. So how would you guys describe how much that's helped you guys coming in with a finance background, coming in with a swing and a hammer background, how much that's helped?
It's been invaluable. I can't even imagine trying to do this without having some sort of other background that helped us in different ways, or approaching some of these deals from different angles, whether it be from an investor standpoint or whether it be from a flipping standpoint. And just knowing how a house is put together has helped so much, and being a part of that, I think has really helped both of us. And I don't know any other way that you gain that knowledge other than just immersing yourself in it. And being a realtor it seems organic, I think, for both of us, because we came from both of those places. So it didn't feel like there was much to learn. It was really, we had sales backgrounds and we understood how a house was put together. We both were architecture dorks, and so it seemed like the right thing to do.
Before being realtors, Darren and I would go to Modern Richmond tour. We would link up and kind of just geek out on architecture and Richmond history and all these things. And Atlas ended up just being an extension of all the things that we thought were neat. And we thought if we shared this with people, it's kind of like how I don't know sports. And so whenever somebody starts talking about a World Series from 25 years ago, I can't even catch up. I think of it a little bit like that, where you have to have really liked it for a long time and been really into it. It's just fortunate that it's the kind of thing where we can make a living doing that. So a lot of times people ask us, where did you get this old photo from, the 50s of whatever? And it's like, that's from spending my off time digging in stacks of photographs in some dusty, whatever antique mall or whatever, for 10 years ago or whatever.
Right. Well, yeah, I think that watching Richmond evolve the last 10 years, I think that it's cool to see like the artists in each kind of different industry. You guys, I consider real estate artists, right? Like you got like the best biscuit makers in the world on Robinson Avenue. You got like Richmond has a lot of those kind of niche business, and you guys are like the real estate guys that like you care so much about your craft that you've worked really, really hard to get good at it. You know what I mean? You're not just there to make a buck. You're there to have an amazing client experience, and you can only do that if you know the ins and outs of the business really well. So that like the Richmond evolution of the last 10 to 15 years. Walk me through what you've seen on the real estate front, neighborhoods, and you guys do a lot of stuff on the north side and some other Carolina and other neighborhoods. What have you seen what's the biggest thing that's shocked you, or the biggest change you've seen in the last 10 to 15 years as it pertains to the Richmond real estate scene? It's a big question.
That's a big question. Probably where the values have gone in some of those areas has been shocking. Like we saw this and predicted, and we worked and participated in a lot of that. But where it's gone, I think has been pretty surprising. I think now that we're at some values that are surprising both of us.
Yeah. What part of town do you live, Darren?
I live in the Carolina.
I'm in the fan.
You're the fan, yeah. What were you going to say? Did I cut you off?
I can remember having conversations with people buying houses in Northside that were, 175 and saying, you got to stay in this house for 10 years. I don't know when it goes to 200.
Right.
I can't put my stamp on this. This feels really reckless that you're paying 175 for this house in a really premium area. And, now, that house is worth 350 and I'm happy for them. And I think how funny it is to have had that conversation, but that's also coming out of the recession and having, such a long upswing for such a long time, not just the these dilapidated houses that have been boarded up or left to out of town heirs being renovated, at the same time having Richmond be on the map of for better or worse, be on the map for USA Today and these sort of like Forbes and these all these outdoor magazine and all these places are writing about how Richmond has the best river or food scene or whatever breweries or whatever.
Sure. So how would you guys describe the market today? So this is May 2019 for those of you watching. How's the market this year compared to last year? Is it just as hot, more or less?
I would say it's just as hot this year as it was last year. Things seem like they move at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And I think that's a lot for buyers to keep up with. And so it becomes a little bit of these past 2 springs, I think we've seen a little bit of a frenzy. Some buyers tend to even want to just kind of back away from it. Like they just don't want to participate in it. It seems too crazy.
Right.
But I think it's up to us to just sort of help manage that, that fear and that nervousness and make the process as smooth as we can.
Yeah. So, Atlas has been a thing for what?
6 years.
Over the years, your business has grown. Let's talk a little bit about your conscious decision not to try to grow large in scale, but to remain boutique. Tell me what went into that decision and how it's worked out for you so far.
To boil it down, it's 2 words. It's just client focus. Like we knew that spending time managing people would take time away from clients. There's only a finite amount of hours in the day, and we wanted to just be focused on our clients and knew that the money would follow if we just did that.
Yeah. And so far, it looks like it's worked out pretty well for you guys. You guys enjoy the lifestyle, the pace, as much client-facing time you get, et cetera.
We really enjoy what we do. Like at the end of the day, it's funny. We'll run into clients or people who've bought houses from us, or even people who've bought flips from us that weren't even our clients, and they'll see us like walking to bow tie together, or they'll see us.
Right, we'll be out.
We'll be out on like double dates or whatever, or we're out, and because we spend our off time together, and we didn't want to lose that. And I think there was a big fear of bringing in another agent or more agents and sort of like losing whatever that is. And I know that maybe there's more, money on the other side of that or more free time or whatever, but, we're not out there, with the, certainly there are people that sell way more houses than we do, but I'd say our quality of life and what we enjoy is more important. I think that, we've got 30 more years in this business. So, rather than burn out, we figured let's just have some fun with it. And, we get a lot of, most of our business is people telling their coworkers or their friends or their, relatives, about us. And I think you lose that if you start to distance yourself from the process by having, all these coordinators. And I think that's a great business model for a lot of real estate firms. And sometimes we get jealous of their numbers, but it's, we at the end of the day, we enjoy, what we do, and it's easy for us to move, as things change.
Yeah. So you guys ultimately didn't want your clients to have a watered down experience. You wanted them to have the legit, authentic experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you connected with somebody from Atlas, it was either Sean or I, and we're extensions of each other.
Sure. I agree. I've known you guys since 2015.
Yeah, it's uncanny. I
agree.
It's weird. Yeah.
Cool. All right, so let's talk about your favorite things in Richmond. We kind of summarize all these podcasts with your favorite things in Richmond. So let's start with, and we'll try to do somewhat rapid fire.
Okay. All right.
Doesn't have to be really fast. Who cares? So favorite restaurant in Richmond, if you can only pick one.
Edo Squid.
I have a hard time with this. If you asked Mindie, it would be Galley.
Okay.
It's an interesting choice. Restaurant I go to the most, I'm going to call out 821 Cafe.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Favorite outdoor thing to do in Richmond? Maybe it's an outdoor activity or an outdoor place.
Swim in the river.
Okay.
I grew up going to the river every day.
Really?
Like that's just what we did.
Really?
Yeah. And I still use it all the time. I think it's incredible that Richmond has a usable river. I think if it wasn't for the river, a lot of people would move away from here.
Mm-hmm.
And whether they realize that or not, but like
Mm-hmm.
that just creates some energy in Richmond that's really important. And so having that like is pretty incredible. So yeah, the river.
The river. Sean?
So I spend a lot of like my like free time, my like mental time,
Mhm.
actually just walking the street grid. So
Right.
that's like Mindy and I. We try not to, come home and just like watch TV. Because we're both in the same industry. She does real estate photography, and so rather than just try to zone out, because we live in the fan, we'll just walk. So we'll find some point that we want to walk to, Kuba Kuba or Ipanema or something, and then walk there, have a bite, and come back. Or that sort of accessibility and like such a tight street grid is what's missing in a lot of other cities. And then and also biking it. I got to know a lot of this city on bike, and that's kind of that's my favorite sort of like when I think about like the things I enjoy doing. It's like it makes my like crazy mind like settle down a little bit. And whether it's walking over the VMFA or walking to whatever VCU and back or whatever, it just feels like it's like that's sort of my connection to the city.
Sean and Mindy treat the whole city like it's their park.
we have actually 0 blades of grass on our property because we have such a small lot.
Respect.
And so we don't know. So we feel like sometimes we're like breaking free. So we walk. We live 5 blocks to Maymont or whatever. So we'll walk down to the different lakes and like
Someone
walk to
else's
Baymont,
grass,
walking other people's grass. We like that public grass. It's nice. Other people get to mow it.
Okay, favorite festival or event that Richmond holds annually?
For me, I'm gonna have to call out one that a friend of ours puts on called United Blood, which is like a hardcore punk festival that's been going on for 11 years now. That a good friend of mine, David Foster, puts on with a couple friends.
Yeah.
He did. Yeah.
High Point fame. Yeah.
It brings a lot of people to Richmond from other places. It's cool. It's not nearly as big as some of the others that come here, but it has a great feel and it has a really cool community aspect to it.
I enjoy United Blood Festival as well. I'm going to say, and maybe this is just because it was this past Sunday, but I enjoyed the Johnny Z Festival, which is sort of a commemoration of Johnny Z's life every year. And I got intergalactic tacos. I ran into 15 or 20 people that I know.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was at Hardywood this year, and so I enjoyed that maybe for the social aspect of it.
Gotcha. Favorite charitable organization, the one that you're most involved in?
Richmond Cycling Corps is without a doubt my favorite charity.
For me, it's RAL.
Okay.
Richmond Animal League.
Okay. Cool. All right. So last question. That's a big one. So you've got a friend coming in town to Richmond for the weekend, never been here before, and you want to show him or her a good time and show off your city. So what do you do? They get here Friday and they leave Sunday around noon. So what do you do? Where do you eat? Where do you take them? What do you see? Where do you do dinner? Where do you do brunch? Any kind of music venue, etc.
Oh man, that's good. Okay. We well, I'm gonna name a couple that we've talked about.
Sure. Yeah.
So you have to get in the river.
Okay.
Like it's kind of a test a little bit for you, really. Like we're going swimming in the river.
Okay.
We're gonna assess your abilities to be in nature.
Okay.
If you complain about it, it says something about you. You know, if you don't want to do it,
you're not
it
welcome
says,
back.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's more of I'm making a general assessment about you and deciding whether like how far we take this friendship. So we're gonna eat Edo squid probably for dinner one night. We're probably going to go to the river. We're gonna do a fair amount of just cruising. Like we love to just like comb the streets, drive, point out cool things in Richmond. You're gonna get a haircut at High Point,
of course.
I'll let Sean start his, and then I'll think of some other ones.
I guess it depends on so a lot of times we end up at Maymont or something if there's if there's any kind of children involved, that we instantly beeline it for Maymont. A lot of times it's just walking down Carey Street, and just sort of like taking all that in.
You're taking somebody to a record store for sure.
We're absolutely going to all of the record stores.
Okay.
And then I'll usually force a museum upon them, and then I'll explain why something's so cool enough that then they oblige. So we end up at whatever. And then I love going to going to basically park at Libby Hill and just look out. I think that view of the river is super. That thing's great. And then if it's somebody, I guess everybody has a little bit different. That's not the same person doesn't necessarily do that whole trip, but those are some of the things that we do. As far as eating goes, I mean, that ranges.
That's tough.
Cuba, Mellow. I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
Absolutely going to Charm School Social Club.
Yeah. Right. We're finishing
question.
off the night.
Absolutely.
Ice cream day. I think we're Richmond's best tour guides.
Yeah.
I really do. I've described myself as that. I think I can back it up.
It's just an extension of our real estate life too. If you can be a good tour guide, you can entertain people in your car for a few hours or a weekend. Guess what? There's a commission on the other side of that if you can do that right.
Sure. Yeah. Well, really appreciate your guys' time. This podcast is about interesting Richmond people doing interesting things, and both of you really make Richmond an interesting place to live, and we appreciate you. So keep doing good things.
Thanks for having us.
We love you.
Thank you.